March 1803. The United States is young. It's been independent for just 20 years, and its economy and infrastructure are still in their infancy. But the nation is growing fast. The majority of Americans are farmers, and for President Thomas Jefferson, the future of the Republic rests on their shoulders.
Jefferson saw the yeoman farmer as almost a natural aristocrat, and he was opposed to that inherited aristocracy of Europe culture.
Jefferson also needs American farmers to build the nation's economy. But as more settlers move west, the Mississippi River becomes increasingly vital for trade and transport. Jefferson suspects the newly acquired territory of Louisiana is filled with furs and other valuable resources. He asks Congress to fund an expedition to explore the area. Jefferson tasked two Army officers, Meriwether Lewis and William Clark, with a mission to lead a corps of discovery into Louisiana territory. In May of 1804, they head west from St. Louis on the Missouri River. The party totals 45, including scientists, cartographers, and several healthy young men with exceptional survival skills. Among them is 32-year-old John Colter.
John Colter is born in Virginia in the early 1770s, and he grows up on a farm and has access to the great outdoors and spends a lot of time there really learning his way around a forest.
Throughout the expedition's first year, Lewis and Clark encounter numerous tribes across the northern plains. John Colter proves his worth.
John Colter turns out to be really good interacting with Native Americans and bartering with them and getting information from them. He's also really good at navigating his way through wilderness. And so whenever there's a job to be done to send somebody 100 miles on a journey to do something, they pick John Colter because he can do it and he can find his way back.
He became a professional man of the West.
As the Corps makes its way up the Missouri River, Colter can't help but notice the abundance of a particular animal.
All the way up, they're seeing more and more and more beaver. And he, like others on the Corps of Discovery, are thinking, there's wealth to be had here. Meriwether Lewis writes this very reassuring letter to President Jefferson. The West abounds with essentially infinite numbers of beaver. This resource is unlimited.
But some native nations don't want Americans trapping on their lands.
The Blackfeet are strongly opposed to American fur traders coming up the Missouri River into Blackfeet territory. And many of those fur traders ended up paying with their lives.
This is their sovereign homeland. And suddenly these people from outside are in, no license, no negotiation, just coming in, killing stuff and taking it out. The Blackfeet rightly understand that this is a threat.
Colter is aware that they are in the territory that is patrolled by the Blackfeet tribe, which makes it a very perilous venture. But he knows his prospects are great, and if he gets out there, he can do well and maybe make his fortune.
Colter decides to go in with a partner, someone he already trusts, and he chooses John Potts, his former canoe mate from the Corps of Discovery.
Colter suggests to Potts that they do most of their trapping and most of their setting and cleaning of traps at night under the cover of darkness.
And so it works for a while. They managed to stay out of the black purview there and trap quite a few beavers for several months.
And so one morning, while the sun is coming up, they are setting and repairing traps. And they hear in the distance this thunderous roar, which they first think might be just a herd of buffalo passing by.
And that's when they encounter a very large contingent of very angry Blackfeet.
John Colter realizes there's no escape. It's totally pointless.
Potts, on the other hand, immediately hesitant. And actually, Potts picks up his rifle and aims at the Blackfeet group. The Blackfeet unleashed a barrage of arrows on Potts, and he was killed in pretty short order.
They strip him, including his moccasins.
And he listens in as the Blackfeet elders make a decision. Then they report to him, "We're giving you a chance to survive." They're speaking to him in sign language, telling him, "We'll let you know when you can start running."
He starts running as fast as he can across this plain. It's a flat plain, but it's covered in prickly pear and all sorts of other things that are slicing up his feet.
Coulter may be running for his life, but the Blackfeet are defending their homelands from the ever-encroaching Americans.
This is not just an opportunity to get revenge against John Coulter. This is actually part of a wider effort by Native Americans, by the Blackfeet here, to resist what they see now as white seizure of resources that Native Americans have depended on.
Coulter knows that his only hope of survival is to make it to a fort.
He's got 6 miles of open territory to traverse, and then he's still 200 miles away from the nearest fort. He eventually comes to a cluster of fallen timbers, logs that have been probably chopped down by beavers upstream. If he can get underneath this pile of logs and find an air pocket, he might be undetectable.
Coulter gets under it in such a way that he can get his nose and mouth just above the water line.
And he waits in ice-cold water.
He's badly damaged. He's totally exhausted. The Blackfeet, they're still searching for him. All day they were moving back and forth. He's got to be here somewhere.
And he waits.
Finally, he's alone, and he carefully crawls out from the river and begins to walk 200 miles to the nearest fort.
He eventually gets to Fort Raymond. Sometimes in his telling, 7 days, sometimes 11 days, but an incredible journey.
When Coulter reaches the fort, he's so emaciated and dirty that his peers don't even recognize him. He recovers and continues his adventures for 2 more years. But after a few more close calls with the Blackfeet, he finally decides to call it quits.
John Coulter tells his story to the Astor people, among whom is a trained British scientist, botanist by the name of John Bradbury, who writes down Coulter's story about being chased by the Blackfeet word for word, and that's the definitive source of the John Coulter story.
I've always believed that the Blackfeet wanted Coulter to survive that run. They want to be feared. They want to be respected. And here's an opportunity for them to send that message loud and clear through a legend. No matter which way you look at it, John Coulter is an amazing human being.